In a land where every Viking is trained to fight dragons, one boy starts to wonder, what if they've been wrong all along? He doesn't fit in, doesn't follow the rules, and when he comes face to face with the most feared dragon of all, he does something no one else ever dared. That moment sparks a secret that could turn his whole world upside down. A long time ago, in a small village called Berk, where the sky was always cloudy and the mountains stood tall, there lived a group of Vikings. For those who don't know, these Vikings were people from very cold places in Northern Europe and had lived over 1,000 years ago. They were known for being strong sailors, fearless explorers, and fierce warriors who traveled far from their homeland to trade, raid, and sometimes colonize other lands. Now back in Berk, they were brave and strong, but they had one big problem: dragons. The Vikings and dragons had been enemies for years. Even though dragons often attacked, the brave Viking villagers never thought of leaving. This island was their home, and they wouldn't give it up. The villagers spent their days training to fight the dragons. Among them was a young Viking named Hiccup. His father, Stoic the Vast, was the village chief, and he wanted Hiccup to become a strong warrior like the other Vikings. But unlike the others, Hiccup was not interested in fighting. He was smaller and less muscular than the other boys, and his inventions often went wrong. However, Hiccup had a curious mind and a big heart, which made him different. One day, while the Vikings were preparing for battle, a dragon suddenly flew down from the sky. It was a night fury, the fastest, rarest, and most mysterious dragon of all, one no Viking had ever seen up close. Hiccup wanted to help, but his father, Stoic, told him to stay behind. Still determined to prove himself, Hiccup quietly sneaked out, climbed to the rooftop of the workshop, and aimed his homemade net launcher. He fired, and surprisingly, he hit the dragon. The dragon crashed somewhere deep in the forest, and Hiccup ran off to find it himself. He discovered the dragon lying injured on the ground, unable to move. At first, he was scared, but he realized the dragon couldn't hurt him. The creature was weak and afraid. Nervously, he raised a hand and gently touched its head. Hiccup looked into the dragon's eyes and felt a connection. He named the dragon Toothless because he noticed it had no teeth. He decided to help Toothless instead of hurting him. Hiccup went back to the forest every day to care for Toothless. He brought fish to feed him and bandaged his wounds. Slowly, he earned the dragon's trust. They began to bond, and Hiccup learned that Toothless was friendly and playful. He realized that dragons weren't the scary monsters people believed they were. He grew more confident and started to change the way he saw dragons. One night, Hiccup sneaked out to see Toothless. He climbed onto the back of the Toothless, and the dragon took off into the sky. Woo-hoo! Hiccup felt scared and excited all at once. They soared high above the village, flying higher than he had ever imagined. He laughed and shouted with joy as they glided through the clouds. In that moment, he realized he didn't need to fight dragons. He could befriend them. With the first light of morning breaking through the clouds, the Vikings gathered once more, ready for another round of dragon fighting training. Hiccup joined his classmates, including Astrid, a skilled and competitive girl he had a crush on. She always aimed to be the best. During the training sessions, Hiccup struggled to keep up. He felt lost, but deep down, he knew he had to find a way to prove himself. Instead of learning to fight dragons, he began thinking of ways to train Toothless and understand them better. Quietly, he slipped away from training, but Astrid noticed him running off and decided to follow him. Astrid found Hiccup training with Toothless, but before she could run back and tell the village, Hiccup convinced her to go for a ride. At first, Astrid was scared, clinging tightly as Toothless soared into the sky. But soon the fear faded, and she began to enjoy the ride. As she reminded Hiccup about the upcoming exam, Toothless suddenly changed the direction, joining a group of dragons in flight and carried them deep into the clouds, all the way to the dragon's nest. There, they saw a huge dragon called the Red Death. The Red Death depended on the food that the other dragons brought back, and if there wasn't enough, it would eat the smaller ones. Once they escaped the island, Astrid wanted to tell the village about the dragon nest, but Hiccup stopped her. He begged her to keep it a secret to protect Toothless. The next day, Hiccup faced his final exam, a fight against a monstrous nightmare. He tried to show the village that dragons could be friendly, but his father stepped in and stopped the fight. This made the dragon angry and put Hiccup in danger. Hearing his scream, Toothless rushed in to save him, but was captured instead. While trying to explain what happened, Hiccup accidentally revealed the location of the dragon's nest. He tried to warn his father, but Stoic wouldn't listen. They began preparing for a big battle against the dragons. Hiccup tried to convince them that dragons were not their enemies, but they ignored his pleas. The Vikings set out for the battle. And Hiccup, determined to save Toothless, leads his classmates to the place where they had trained with dragons before. There, he shows them how to connect with the dragons peacefully. The dragons, feeling safe and trusting, allow the teens to climb on their backs. Now united, Hiccup and his friends soar into the sky, flying together to join the fight and follow the Vikings. Stoic and the Vikings find the dragon's nest and break it open, but inside, they wake up a giant, terrifying dragon, the Red Death. Just in time, Hiccup and his friends arrive, riding the dragons they trained with. He realized that the dragons weren't attacking the Vikings, but they were trying to protect their home and their young. While Hiccup's friends keep the monster busy, Hiccup tries to free Toothless, who's trapped. But when the Red Death attacks again, the ship they are on is destroyed, and Hiccup and Toothless nearly drown underwater. Luckily, Stoic dives in and saves them both. Hiccup and Toothless come up with a daring plan. They trick the Red Death into chasing them. But during the intense battle, Toothless's tail wings get damaged, making it harder to fly. Just when it seems like they might fall, Toothless turns back, and with one powerful move, he blasts a shot of fire straight into the Red Death's mouth. The monster, overwhelmed by its own flames, loses control. With a deafening roar, it crashes to the ground and explodes in a giant ball of fire. But suddenly, Toothless also loses his balance, and he and Hiccup start falling straight into the fire below. When the smoke clears, Stoic finds Toothless, badly hurt but alive, protecting an unconscious Hiccup safely under his wings. Hiccup woke up to find that his left leg had been replaced with a prosthetic. He was now seen as a hero. He smiled as he watched the Vikings and dragons working side by side to rebuild the village. At last, he had proven to everyone that dragons could be friends, not enemies.